Hi, it's me, Vicky Marie, and today in this video I'm going to bring you an update on Robert Card, who of course is the guy who had in Maine over in the USA. This guy the other day just decided he'd had enough of people. Sorry, the phone's ringing. And he just went out, took a gun out, and off he went, and he has killed 18 people, and there are 13 people injured. Now, this guy, what we know about him so far is he has 20 years of military experience. He's a firearms trainer. Apparently, he's had some mental health issues this year. He was in a mental health facility for 2 weeks over the summer, and he did say that he was hearing voices, and he did threaten to shoot up a facility. So, you know, they kind of, whatever happens in this case, when they finally get him and he comes to trial, if he is apprehended alive, they need to address these questions. Why was this man who had openly threatened to do something like this, who had been in a mental health facility for 2 weeks, who had said he was hearing voices, was obviously clearly suffering from mental health issues? Why was he allowed to keep his guns, or at least one gun? You know, I mean, he will, if he's a firearms officer, obviously he will have guns, and I suppose it's quite difficult, I don't know, to keep track of them. They all should be registered, and they all should have been taken off him. Of course, he would know perhaps how to get a gun anyway from maybe one of his family members had a gun. I don't know. These are the things that are to come out. So currently, he's being hunted. He did these shootings on 2 separate locations in Maine. Right, I'm just going to show you a little bit about it, just in case you don't know much about it. I did cover it yesterday, but we'll just briefly, get a little précis of what's happened. So yeah, he's still on the run after 18 people were shot dead at a bowling alley and a bar in Maine. Now, it's interesting. We're going to watch some of the clips from neighbours being interviewed and survivors being interviewed. And it's interesting because one of the neighbours says, that where they live, it's country. And because the interviewer asked, why do you think he went to this bar and this bowling alley? And the neighbour says that, they're the only places around where you would find people. If you want to go out somewhere at night, that's the only place to go, because if they're right out in the country, there's not loads of places where you would find sort of groupings of people. And Maine is widely regarded perhaps the safest place to live in the UK, or was before this incident. So last night, the police, they found his car abandoned. And last night, they went to the home of his relatives and surrounded it. And the SWAT team, we're going to see a little video of that as well. I mean, I feel for his relatives because, they're going to be, they've had the SWAT team circling their house, and that must have been quite scary for them, I would imagine. So we're going to look at a clip of that anyway. So, and apparently he's still armed, he's still dangerous. You can see here, this is the gun he had. He looks like his pockets are full of ammunition. So he's probably, still got plenty of ammunition left. So he's a dangerous man. People have been told to stay indoors, to not leave the house, to not approach the man under any circumstances. If anybody sees him, they're to ring the police immediately. And they're searching woodland areas, or they've set up a perimeter, I believe. And I'm also hearing that they found a note, a suicide note at his house. So, but nothing's been confirmed. this is just what everybody is saying, but the police haven't actually come out and given a press conference to say this yet. So it's night time at the moment in the USA, so I would imagine they're waiting for daylight. This puts me in mind of that Danilo Cavalcanti manhunt, the night time. It's difficult, isn't it, for them to operate, for the police to operate. And in the daytime, that's when they're more likely probably to catch him. If they've set up a perimeter that hopefully, well, they'll have the helicopters out and the heat-seeking equipment. And, this is just not going to end well, is it, one way or another? Because he may delete himself, or he may try to take out a few policemen with him and end up being deleted by the police. Now, the best case scenario, of course, is if he can be caught alive, and then he has a case to answer then, and maybe we can get some answers as to, what triggered this. I don't know if there will be any answers, really. I mean, he does sound like, if he's a vet, I don't know what sort of service he's seeing. But, it does trigger, obviously, being in the forces, it triggers a lot of mental health issues. Okay, so that's what we're going to look at. Now, we're going to start off with the survivors. Oh, no, we'll start off, this is, I think, JLR, he's on the scene. He's boots on the ground, so he put up a short video about the standoff, so I think we'll have a look at that first.
Jonathan Lee Riches investigates. Authorities are looking for this guy right here, Robert Card, and they seem to be zeroing in, authorities, on an address in Baldwin, Maine, about 30 miles to the east of Lewiston, an address on Meadow Road affiliated with Mr. Card. I want to show you some clips right now. FBI standoff going on. They're definitely heard on loudspeaker. What is going on here? Check it out.
So I think they're shouting FBI, come to the door. So yeah, the FBI is involved. Again, very, very beautiful place, isn't it? All the autumn colours, etc. I've always wanted to go to Maine because Stephen King, who's one of my favourite authors when I was young, of course, a lot of his books are set in Maine, aren't they? Gosh, I mean, that's the army right there, isn't it? I mean, this is... it must be terrifying for the rest of the family if they didn't know anything about this.
So are they zeroing in, or do they know something, or is this standard protocol for FBI and law enforcement to go to all addresses affiliated with Mr. Card, or associate addresses, or do they think he's somewhere in that area? He is wanted. He's on the loose. He's the prime suspect in the mass shooting that occurred in Lewiston the night before. Multiple people died, multiple people injured. He was in the army. He escaped.
No, I just want to say it's very, very sad, but I believe of the people that were killed, most of them are men. There was one woman, and I have had sort of, but it's unconfirmed yet, that one of these victims was a baby, because there were a lot of children there at this bowling alley. So if that's true, I mean, it just makes it impossible to have any sympathy for this guy, that he would do that to children.
He's on the loose. He could be anywhere out there. Where do you think he is? Do you think he's back in a home affiliated with himself, or did he get out of Dodge? Subscribe to my channel, hit the notification button. Covering this case, I'll give you updates. If they find the guy, we will share. And I'm digging in on this Card guy. Everything and anything Card, we will show on this channel. We will talk soon. Stay tuned.
So there's JLR with his usual good information, etc. Now, let's have a look at some other. Let me just put that one down. I've got quite a lot of things to show you. Let's see. I want to show you the survivors now talking. Yeah. So this is a News Nation clip. And this is 2 survivors. They were at the bowling alley.
Right side is where we hold our practice. First 4 lanes when you walk in. That's where the majority of my bowling kids were. I just happened to be on the left side this one night, facilitating a pre-post bowl session where kids can make up for games that they missed, or bowl for games that they're gonna miss. And then what happens?
So he was specifically, I mean, he just looks totally shell-shocked, the guy, doesn't he? He was specifically at the bowling alley for kids, for the kids groups.
I hear the loudest pop I've ever heard in a bowling alley, and it was unnatural. I've been in bowling alleys my entire life. It was unnatural. I knew it immediately. Thank God that this guy was having gun malfunctions.
You pretty sure about that, huh?
Gosh, there you go. So the guy was having gun malfunctions. Otherwise, he might not be here to tell this story.
Because 100% confident. When I looked around the corner, he was facing me at 30 feet, and he was racking his gun.
There's only 2 reasons you're doing that, right? You're either reloading,
Right.
or you're trying to clear the chamber.
Right. Clear jam.
So either way, that's a moment of let's go.
Right. And were you able to get any eye contact with him or to watch any of his movements?
I saw nothing but neck down and long gun. And the first words out of my mouth were shooter, and follow me. And there just happened to be.
Oh, bless. So he's got all those children there, and he's just realised what's going on. Gosh, imagine. It's just terrifying. I think, honest to God, I'm sorry, America. Anyone, it's like, what is going on that you cannot think that you can just go out bowling? These shooters can turn up anywhere, anytime, because it's so easy. He obviously, he's a bit of an anomaly, this guy, because I think this guy, even if the gun laws were tightened, this guy would have had a gun, because that's what he does. He's a shooting instructor. I think the problem with this issue is, why was he not monitored more when he's already threatened to be a shooter? He's already threatened to go and shoot up a facility. He's been in a mental health facility. He's said he's hearing voices. They knew that you couldn't have any more red flags. So why was he able to have a gun?
A huge curtain where they have their candlepin lanes shut down. I saw that curtain as cover. I said, follow me. Half of my group followed me. The other half of my group froze
Oh,
and barricaded in a corner. From that exit door that I got everybody out of, I stood there and continued to watch into the building because that shooter was either going to continue my way, walking towards that group, and this could have been a lot worse.
oh.
Could have been a lot worse, Chris.
I mean, look, it's
Could have been a lot worse. Now, obviously, I've never been in that sort of situation where there's been an active shooter, but I've been in a terror situation. Many years ago, there was a bomb scare at the Grand National, at the horse racing when I used to work. At the toe on the horse race, you know, in the race courses. And the first time I was working at the Grand National. And that year there was a bomb scare. Now, it turned out later it was a fake bomb, but it was the IRA. The IRA had rang up with the code. The IRA, if people don't know, is the Irish Republican Army. They were they were fighting for independence from Britain, if you like, for Ireland to be a whole, because we've got Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland. Anyway, I don't want to go into the whole story of why they were doing what they were doing, but all the time I worked on the race courses, in fact, all the time that I was in Manchester especially, there were bomb scares on a regular basis. You sort of forget what it's like to live under that cloud, and occasionally there were bombs, you know, and people died. Anyway, at this particular Grand National, the bomb that they'd rang up, they'd given the code, you know, because they have an accepted code, because otherwise anyone can ring up and say they've planted a bomb. But the IRA had a specific code they would ring up with, so the police knew it was a genuine IRA, not just somebody, you know, because unfortunately people do ring up and, you know, just for the hell of it. So it was the proper code. And they had actually placed a dummy bomb under a bus, you know, a coach, I should say, because it was packed. You can imagine the Grand National is probably the biggest race of the year, biggest horse race of the year. It's held in Reentering in Liverpool. It was packed. And this bomb scare came about 15 minutes before the main event, the actual Grand National itself, was about to start. So I was working there. You know, there was just people everywhere. And then suddenly this bomb scare came in. This warning came in. The police were there. They told us to close up. The thing is, within literally sort of 10 minutes, it went from there being, you know, thousands of people surrounding where we were working to they'd just disappeared, and there were like police on horses just riding through. Oh gosh, it was really odd. And then it was like, well, what do? Do you stay? The police had told us to stay where we were, but you think, oh gosh, if I stay here, what if the bomb's here? What if the bombs are around here? So I just got my coat. It's that fight or flight, isn't it? And for me, it's flight. I got my coat, got my bag, and I just went, because all the other people in there, they were staying where they were, and I just couldn't stay there. Anyway, of course, nobody knew where to go. So come out, it was bedlam. Because the problem is, what I'm trying to say is, what this guy is saying is true. You don't know if you're going to be safe wherever you're going. So I could have been walking into the path of the bomb, you know, or the bomb could have been, you know, I could be walking away from the bomb. You just didn't know. All you knew was there's a bomb there somewhere. It could be anywhere. And then the police started guiding us towards the car park. And then I'm just thinking, well, what if the bomb's in one of these cars, that I could be walking past this bomb right now? It's the most terrifying thing, because you really don't know if you're walking into danger or away from danger. You just don't know. And I would imagine that's a similar sort of thing. But he could see the guy, but he's, you know, will the guy come towards him? Will he go somewhere else? But I mean, that is literally why they call it terror, isn't it? And the other thing that happened with us, I won't go into the whole story, but then they were trying to guide everybody out away from the race course onto the street, if you like, out. But the gate that they were trying to guide us through was tiny. And there were thousands of people trying to get through this small gate. So everyone was shouting, look, we're going to have another Hillsborough if we're not careful. Because if you know about Hillsborough, that was a stampede at a football ground, problem at a football ground where people got crushed and died. And that's how it felt that it was going to happen. It was the most terrifying experience of my life. And so that's the nearest I can come to understanding. But of course, that wasn't a gun. Wasn't some guy with a gun just picking people off.
There's no way to put the right words to how horrible this is for the victims involved, all the families in this community. There's no question. But that is, you heard me, one of the questions I have, because he obviously got the weapon functioning again, right? Because he went to another location, unless he had another weapon. But a guy with that kind of weapon and that kind of ammo and that kind of training, where a place can't get away and they don't have anything to defend themselves, could have been, complete.
Right.
Did you see anybody get hit? Did you see?
It's awful, isn't it? When you've got to. It could have been a lot worse. Well, there's still 18 people killed and 13 people injured. And you have to just take those small mercies that it could have been, so many more.
See where he seemed to be aiming or how he was doing it?
I didn't, but what I do know is that he was calculated. This wasn't a sprayer. This was a pow, 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 pow. He's putting a dot on somebody.
And you don't have any sense, though, of he was looking for specific people versus this was just a place with a lot of people?
I don't believe.
At the time,
I don't believe so.
I think we were both trying to,
Just
take care of our people and get out.
No, you did the right thing. I mean, you really did the right thing. Did you see anybody who was injured on the outside or any part of that scene?
There was one little girl and her mom that was running with. Luckily, I had my phone, so I had the flashlight, and it looked like she either cut herself really poorly on her leg, which tore her pants, or she had a little bullet hole in her leg. So we walked her over to the ambulance, and she got in the ambulance. And then there was an older woman that was bowling that she was having some chest problems. So we were comforting her.
When I re-entered the alley, as I said, I was looking through that door, expecting to see him continue. A minute or so passed. That I didn't hear any action. I didn't hear anything happening. And I had a good buddy that was in that group on lane 17, barricaded in the corner. I yelled his first initial, D, and I didn't hear anything. I waited a few more seconds, and I yelled again, full name, Dylan. And he said, yes. I said, are you good? He said, yeah. At that point, I really wasn't concerned with the threat. I made my way back in, and as soon as I got to that original corner that I had looked down, there was bodies. And
oh, this poor guy. So the trauma. So he's acting on adrenaline by the sound of it. He said he didn't see the threat in the end. I suppose you just, I don't know, just go on some sort of autopilot or whatever. But he's going to get. It's all going to hit him now. So I believe that there are counsellors around and that he's going to need one, this poor guy.
The owner of the facility, who I know and I'm close with her husband, great people. They brought our bowling alley back to life for us. I saw her running from the front entrance back into the building. The door was locked. It was secure. I felt no threat. At that point, it was who here is savable.
Is anybody savable?
Not a lot. Not a lot.
Anybody talking to you today after this about why?
Gosh. They said there wasn't a lot that was savable. Dear me, poor guy.
They think this happened?
I think every single person's wondering why it happened.
Yeah.
Anybody seem to know anything?
It's 4.3 million speculations.
Yeah.
You know, and as much as I want the police force to empty every single round that they have into his chest, I think we all almost want him to give some sort of an answer, but there's not going to be one answer he gives that's going to make sense for any of us. So at this point, let's just get it done with. You know, he needs to go away.
What does that aspect do to your head and your heart that?
Yes, it is. You always want answers, but are there any answers? You know, because sometimes you just cannot put yourself in that person's head at all. You know, you want him to say, why did you do it? You know, why did you do this? Why did you take these lives? Does he even know why he did it? I don't know.
He found a way to evade them this long. You think it's just about the area?
Like you said, it's a rural area, and if you know your surroundings and you're familiar with this area, you can get around.
Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to News Nation now.
So there you go. That was two survivors talking. Very poignant. Very poignant, isn't it? That poor guy, he's going to need some mega counselling, isn't he? Okay, now we're going to look at one of the neighbours, one of his neighbours talking. Now, this neighbour, there's another neighbour that we're going to look at who I think did say that this guy was a bit strange and but this particular neighbour has got nothing but good things to say. So let's have a look what he's got to say, this neighbour.
It will never stop overwhelming me what human beings are capable of in crisis. And you just saw it with these two guys who could be your brother, your buddy, your bowling partner. So in trying to figure out what we're dealing with, what kind of animal this is, and what he has in him, I met this guy named Rick Goddard, who lives right next to the family, understands the surroundings also, and gave me some really great insight into how hard it'll be.
Sorry.
How old is she?
She's 20 years old, and it's a college hangout, and so she was going to go hang out with her friends at the bowling alley last night, and she got a call on her way there and said that something was going on there, and not bother showing up. And fortunately, she didn't.
That's an interesting way to be told about a mass shooting going on.
She didn't, speculate at that time that's what had happened. She didn't know that's what had happened.
Somebody just said, stay away from here.
Yeah, there's something going on. Don't come, to Lewiston right now. They're locking everything down.
What do you think about why Lewiston?
I don't know why he chose that particular spot, but I mean, population-wise, where there's actually a populace of people, that's it. I mean,
it's the closest place to here.
Exactly. That's the only place where you could go to do something. You know what I mean? This is country, that's the city, and there's only things to do in the city if you want to do something at night.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So he's saying why he would have picked that. That's the only place he could have picked nearby that would have people there. It's the only place where there would have been people there at night.
The situation with him being a veteran, and from what I've heard, he was in, the veteran hospital, and he was hearing voices and stuff. And for him not to get the help that he needed, our veterans aren't getting the help that they need.
A guy with his kinds of skills.
I think this guy has got like an interesting take on it, if you like, or it's not only interesting, it's true. He's saying our veterans are not getting the help that they need. And I don't think that's only true in America, is it? I think that's true, joining the forces, and everyone makes a big thing about them protecting us and this, that, and the other. And then when they come out of the forces, they're just sort of left to their own devices, really, and it's very difficult. I know I have a nephew who's been in the army all his life, really, retired at 50, or around that age, because they do retire early, don't they? He's finding it really difficult to cope with civilian life because he's been in, the services so long. He misses all the camaraderie, or he's finding it he's finding it very difficult to get the same job satisfaction, and several of the people that he was in the forces with, they've deleted themselves because they can't cope with civilian life. So there is a real issue there, isn't there? Are they getting the help that they need? Veterans in general, not only in America, but everywhere. Do these people, I mean, I cannot imagine if you've been in a war zone or you've been in how you then function in normal life. It's like, it's difficult, isn't it? 'Cause it's so different. So maybe he's right. I think that's very big of him to say that. Maybe the veterans aren't getting the help that they need. But of course, not all the shooters in America are veterans.
The initial numbers were much higher. Then they came down, thank God, right?
Sure.
The kind of weapon he had, the kind of ammunition he had on him, and the time that he had, it almost speaks to him having targeted specific people, because he could have hit a lot more people with the amount of time and free reign he had.
From what I saw on the press conference, at 10:30 this morning, whatever, it showed that he was mainly targeting males. And there was only, from what I saw at the time, there was one female casualty. So he was being precise, I would say. I wouldn't say it was just a random shooting spree at that point. He was definitely targeting certain individuals.
Now, of him, you've never had any indication, other than that he was a veteran, that he had any kind of edge to him or any kind of animus?
None. Never heard a negative thing about any of the family. Not a single negative thing.
And the reputation of the family?
Very well known. I mean, it's a small community, and they're well known, part of this community, and never heard a negative thing about any of them.
That lovely little house out in the country, you just don't know what's going on behind closed doors, do you?
He had been gone, as far as you know, in the service, and then came back home recently.
Correct. Last year or so.
And you had no indication of what he was up to, except that you saw him working with the family doing what?
Farming, helping his father hay his field. That's when I saw him.
And what was the reaction of this community to this news?
I can only speak for myself, but I mean, it's mind-blowing. It's just, this is something that doesn't happen here. And why would this ever happen here? It doesn't make any sense. If somebody ends up in that kind of a...
I think it's interesting, isn't it? People always say, "Oh, I can't believe this has happened here," but just goes to show things can happen anywhere. Anywhere. And I think when you live in these kind of places, you don't expect things to happen. So it's different. Like if you live in New York or London, or you're much more street savvy. Manchester the same, because you know that things can happen. Things do happen, and you're having to sort of avoid that all the time. You're aware. I think sometimes when you live in these kind of places, your guard is down. You don't expect anything to happen. I think that's what happened in Pride de Luge when Madeleine McCann went missing. I think the police weren't expecting it to be anything from the beginning, so they messed it up. I think that's what happened in St. Michael's, that they weren't expecting any foul play or anything nefarious. You look at these places and you think, oh no, these things couldn't happen here. But of course they do.
A mental crisis, it doesn't happen here, and it did, and it really hits home.
The way family works around here, if anybody had contact with him, is this the kind of situation where you turn the guy in, or is this the kind of culture where you protect him, hide him?
I wouldn't dare say. Personally, if it was my family member and that happened to me, knowing it's never going to end well, I'd want them to turn themselves in, because if they didn't, it's going to be so much worse for them. I mean, it's never going to be a good situation how this is going to end, period. It's not. I mean, there's no good outcome for this, for him.
Or for them.
Or them. For the family, it's unbelievable what they're going through right now, I'm sure.
Reports that locals say they...
I could, well, I wouldn't like to say, because I suppose you never know until you're in that situation, but even if it was my family, I don't think I could not turn them in. I'd have to turn them in. He's just killed a load of people. You know, you cannot. I would do my very best to persuade them to turn themselves in, of course. I'd be scared as well, you know, knowing that he's gone and done that. You'd be terrified he was going to do something to you as well. And then there's other members of the family to worry about. So you'd have to turn them in, I think. How could you not turn them in? What do you think? Let me know in comments. But I, especially in this sort of situation, I mean, it's different if they've, I don't know, if they've even robbed a bank or something. If they haven't actually hurt someone. But I think once they've hurt someone, especially as arbitrarily as this, and the thought that there were children there, that, how could you not turn them in? You'd have to turn them in.
They were well known and known by reputation that give them their space, stay away, including him.
I wouldn't say so. I mean, as far as they like to take...
Yeah, it's interesting this, because this guy says the opposite to what everybody else, you know, because I know other neighbours have said that they were like, you know, almost a family that was standoffish, and that they were almost obsessed with guns and this, that and the other. Whereas this guy is saying the opposite. So where does the truth lie?
Precedents in keeping the land private so that they can hunt on it, because of problems they've had with other people coming and doing things on their land that's inappropriate, you know, stealing, etc. And so they've posted their land to keep other people off of it. Other than that, nothing. Never heard a negative thing. And
you've never been intimidated by them or worried about them or anything?
Absolutely not. By no means. By no means. They're good people. It's what makes this so unbelievable.
Good people.
So it's hard to fathom what happened to him mentally to cause this.
You think that's what it was?
I'm not fully knowing his whole military history, but if he was in actual combat and he has PSTD or whatever, I can't imagine it's anything other than that.
But you never heard that he was dealing with illness?
I never heard any negative things ever.
I appreciate you. Hey, thank you for watching. Please.
Interesting. So let's see. I think I've still got. Have I got another one that I wanted to show you? No, that's it for now. Oh, let me just go back here a sec. Oh, yeah, I wanted to show this other neighbour, or what allegedly this other neighbour has said, which is different to what that neighbour said. So it's interesting. Where's the truth? Who knows?
Jonathan Lee Riches investigates. I want to give everyone some new insight and new information about this guy right here. Robert Card, wanted by authorities in connection with the mass shooting that occurred in Lewiston, Maine. Now, a neighbor of Mr. Card has spoken, and I want to share an interview that the media got with the neighbor. His name is Leanne Kent, and he spoke about Robert Card. Check this out.
And Liam, we understand that you grew up near Robert Card and his family. Can you tell us anything you know about the person of interest in these shootings?
Well, I grew up about half a mile away. Bowdoin is a very interesting community. There's kind of like a center hub near the school and the town store, excuse me. And then you have like West Bowdoin, but they all interconnect around the school and the town store. And I just happen to live near there. And the family complex, it's basically a compound. The family and Robert, they're all gun fanatics. This
is a completely different story now. they're all gun fanatics.
For all intents and purposes, are very much associated with right-wing militias. It's known in the town to stay away from them and to not approach them.
So, associated with right-wing militias, stay away from them, don't approach them. Complete opposite to what the other neighbour was saying.
If you see them, you just turn around and walk away. I remember going to the town store when I was a kid, about, around 12, 14. And I remember very vividly, it's just been the image that's been kind of going around in my head, is I'm going to the store and there's a way station there for deer. So he had just killed a deer with his buddies, and the deer was hanging and blood was dripping on the ground from the deer, and he was covered in blood with a gun on his back with a giant grin on his face. And they were all smoking cigarettes and drinking their morning coffee and like praising each other.
Yeah, so it sounds like they're just from completely different worlds, aren't they? So Robert is obviously a hunter, enjoys hunting. You know, I know hunting is a big thing in these country areas. The same here in Spain, and it's horrible. You know, I hate hunting, but at the end of the day, a lot of people do it, and but you can see that these two are complete opposite personalities. So that's maybe the difference. Maybe the other neighbour, maybe he quite likes hunting as well. I don't know why. I think it's a question of personality and lifestyles, isn't it? They're obviously a contrary lifestyle.
And also they would shoot guns all the time. Like you could hear them every day after school. It was like clockwork. You could hear them shooting guns, and the sound would ricochet off the valley. I could even hear it at elementary school. At times, you could hear them shooting guns.
Liam, real quickly here, we only have a few seconds.
I do think, you know, that he seems to be, you know, he was a firearms instructor. He dealt with guns all his life. And I think a lot of people are obsessed with guns, because I still can't quite get over the photo of when I've been looking into the Summer Wells case. And there's that photo right there on their social media, on the Wells social media, all the children holding a gun. You know, it's unbelievable. So, you know, sometimes some families are obsessed by guns, I suppose.
But this is a close-knit community. Do you have friends who you know were injured last night?
Yes, there are some friends of mine that have been injured. I know there was a baby that was killed at the bowling alley. It was a children's bowling night.
Now, this is where I was trying to think where I'd heard about the baby. He's saying there was a baby that was killed, but that has, just to let you know, that has not been, no victim, you know, the actual identity of any victims, none of it has been confirmed by the police. So we should take that with a pinch of salt and hope that it's not true. So I do know that happened. I'm not going to give any information out until the police officially release the names, but there's going to be a lot of heartache and tragedy that comes from this.
Well, Liam, Kent, we appreciate you taking some time. Continue to stay safe, and we'll make sure to check back in with you, okay?
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So the neighbor was saying Card and his family were the type of people everyone's more or less stayed away from. And they were gun-toting. So it's good to hear from neighbors and people that know Card. And gosh, what an opposite opinion, isn't it? So we've heard from one neighbor just before who said what a great family. There were no problems, only that they'd fenced off their land because they'd had problems with people stealing things. But apart from that, they're fine. And now we've got this guy saying they're practical, you know, white supremacists or something. And know what's going on with this particular guy. Why did this guy do what he did to innocent lives? Why did he go into the bowling alley and other locations and do this crime? Right now, the death toll, a little over a dozen. Don't know the actual figure because people are still in the hospital getting treatment. Communities on edge, guys on a loose. Anything and everything about this guy I'll be sharing with all of you, providing insight, educational purposes only, and to
Yeah, so there you go. Suppose all, you know, we've got two opposite views there from two neighbours to what this guy is like. He's still on the loose. I'll be going live later on today. I would imagine not much will happen now because it is night time there. But I'll be going live later on. As soon as I hear anything, I'll go live, or if there's going to be a police conference or anything like that. And yeah. Sad, isn't it? Anyway, so yeah, remember to live and love very carefully, very wisely. I'll see you very soon in the next video. And until then, may your God go with you. Bye.